Okay, it's 6:10 p.m. in Pahrump, Nevada. Here's what I wanted to talk about. This newscast, this template. One of the themes that has been woven throughout these podcasts is national security, surveillance, the NSA. Those three letters we're not allowed to use after Snowden, right? That I think there really has been a movement in society. People using suggestions, hypnotic suggestions, using the technology of hypnotic interrogation to condition people not to think that way, to just live their own lives, perhaps not to be social engineers. And let me branch off into this theory for a little bit, where these dreamers, these people that have these big dreams and create art and tell stories, just didn't have enough, right? And so they become social engineers. But that's, and you know, we all know from the world of cybersecurity, even at the level of the A+ certification in CompTIA, when you're studying to get your A+ certification to do something as simple as work as a computer technician at a low level, doing tech desk stuff, help desk stuff in an office. You learn about social engineering, and it's a bad thing. But on the other hand, social engineering is what selling is. You have a circumstance. Someone doesn't want to buy something. Someone doesn't want you. Someone doesn't want what you have to offer. Someone doesn't want to even let you put your cards on the table. Someone doesn't look at the cards on the table and see it for the beauty that it is. Someone can't look at it as a window into what could be. Even though that is indeed what dating is. That is what relationships are. That is what a business relationship is. That is what an employer-to-employee relationship is. That's what a marriage is. It's what you could be. And aptitude is hard to judge, in all fairness. But you don't base a decision on who you choose as your partner. Well, you know, let me walk that back a bit. I mean, there are celebrities, there are incredibly rich people that, for whatever reason, among those reasons that they've had incredible privilege throughout their lives, and they're at a point where, unless they're going to choose to go the route of an individual that with all of his privilege and wouldn't be able to spend all the money he has to spend throughout the course of his lifetime without doing something incredibly extravagant. You know, someone that has so much, someone that has amassed so much by contributing something the world has valued at such a high level. I'm talking the Zuckerbergs, the Bill Gates, perhaps the Donald Trumps with their 10 billion or so net worths, you know, Warren Buffett's, people that have, that, you know, George Soros among them, people that are worth so much that they'd have to buy, you know, the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket times 10 to expend their net worth, and what could they do with it anyway but go into space a few times and orbit around the Earth and come back down, and they could do that without buying the rocket. So they could go on Virgin Galactic, like all of us are going to be able to in the next 10 to 20 years, perhaps. There's just no way they can spend all their money. So, you know, the third-generation socialites of these folks will choose a wife that's pretty enough, will choose a wife that's gorgeous enough and has the educational background and the experience of privilege throughout her life to just, I hate this word, enjoy it. I hate the word enjoy. I'm a real estate agent. I look through listings all the time, you know, to sort of get a good idea of how to best put certain things. And there's these cute little terms, cute little words we have, like cozy. Cute! Right, that house is cute. This house is cozy. These tender loving care. We all know about that. We've all watched the HGTV shows. We've all watched the exposés on listing language and these little things we can do. And we all know what it is. But I always, you know, read through the listings in my areas to get an idea of what the agents are doing to perfect their storytelling and their language. Because it does matter, right? The most important part of a listing, and this is what most agents, unfortunately, are just not good at, is the story you tell, is how you describe why you should buy this house. And, you know, yes, nowadays in the world of real estate, we serve both the buyers and the sellers. And it works this way all around the country, if not in Canada too, where they have CREA. That's how it works. But in the world of representing a seller, your job is to sell a house. So yeah, you want to put things forward in the best way, of course, without misrepresenting it and neglecting to disclose material facts to a potential buyer's decision when asked, and in cases where it's necessary to put it forth immediately. You want to sell the house. You persuade. And that brings me back to my point. That's what dating is. That's what an employer-employee relationship is. And it's a kind of micro-level social engineering. And I really do believe there has been a war through the manipulation of what comes up on our cell phones. I really believe that on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram and anything that appears on your phone, they can manipulate your emails to psychologically torture you or nudge you. And in fact, there have been articles in the past 5 years about nudges and how these behavioral nudges can be advantageous to us. Like, go get your exercise in, go get some sunlight, and how it can help us live healthier lives, and how letting AI manipulate us can be beneficial. But these behavioral nudges can also be used to support the power structure, to have people that are existing wealthy, existing, socialite class. I would use the term capitalist class, the actual 1%, to keep them in power, to prevent people from dreaming of having their experiences, dreaming of having their inheritances, dreaming of having their lifestyles, prevent them from dreaming of having a private plane, of having 2 or 3 Lear jets, or it's not Lear jets anymore. A lot of times they're actually Cessna jets, or what was, Saab, or I think, someone was telling me, whatever, private jets, 4 Seasons, private jet, 2 or 3 for yourself. Stop dreaming of it. Because that's for us. We get to have this. We get to be healthy. We get to not log into our computers and log into our cellular phones in this fight for survival, a lot like a real estate agent unfortunately has to, tracking his listings, tracking what his buyers are into, and constantly reaching out to them, finding out what a buyer prospect is into, and getting him information on it, and like I do all the time, welcoming them here from out of state, or welcoming them here from a neighboring town, or if they live here and are looking to upsize or downsize, showing them several homes before helping them get into escrow and helping them write the best offer on that home on the buyer side, right? So there you go. Again, social engineering. There's been a war on social engineering by, of all things, the NSA. But if you're going to make the sell that you should go out with me, if you're going to make the sell that I should be able to put my cards on the table and have you read them in the right way, if I have the right to ask you on a date, if I have the right to ask you to marry me, whoever you are, then maybe we should also have the right, collectively and individually, to engineer society, to make the case that some jobs should be worth more, that some activities should be worth more economically than they actually are, and to make the case that indeed there is central planning happening in our economy in a way that is much more subversive and much more evil than the fact that it's not a true pure capitalist economy, that indeed there are regulations, which makes it a hybrid economy. Essentially, it's partial capitalism and partial communism, and that's what we have in the United States. We have heavily government regulated, and I'm in an industry where we are licensed, among many other industries, like being a cosmetologist, or in a lot of states, to serve liquor, right? All across the country, every state has regulations on real estate, their own definitions of what an agent is, and what should be done and what matters. And in Nevada, you've got some very unique policies, especially given rural land and manufactured homes in rural areas, about what needs to be disclosed. We have special forms put forth by the state. In some states, there aren't, right? It's up to the broker, up to the realtor board to decide how to make that disclosure. We've got forms. We have the duties owed. We have a disclosure of the existence of a manufactured home. If it's not converted to real property on a piece of land that we're selling, right? These things have to be done. So maybe we should make the case that some things are worth more than others, and maybe we should make the case that some lifestyles and certain pillars of what our lifestyle should be need to be supported. Among them, world travel. Among them, sex. Among them, sex with partners that are, ideal. There were studies that came out, and this is a bit of a tangent I'm on, so hang on for a second. There were studies that came out within in the last 10 years, and by the way, I've always tracked heavily AI and how, facial recognition, which by the way is really functional these days, and it can be used to bring down criminals, it can be used to target people with these hypnotic interrogation technologies, right? How these AI, can judge how beautiful a woman is. And it's a bit fluid. It's a bit, because of the fact that there is a truth to the fact that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But there is a such thing as an ideal, perfect, beautiful woman. Cross-culture. Or specific to culture. But, a computer can judge. This woman is a 9. This woman is a 10. This woman is a 7. This woman is a 6. This woman's a 5. This woman's a 7. This woman's an 8. We have these terms. She's a 10, she's Baywatch, she's Pamela Anderson. And of course it's changed through time, and I'm fortunate enough to have been able to see changes in culture of what men, maybe not what men find sexually attractive and what stirs their juices, let's say. Or gets their boat floating, let's say. I mean, these are very trite, innuendos. Very trite references to the phallic symbol that is quite literal in your pants. Right. Fuck it all. So, what I'm saying is a computer can determine this woman is perfect. And speaking of AI being able to judge aptitude, speaking of IQ tests, the bell curve, the Sanford-Binet, the Woodcock-Johnson, a computer might be able to help make a determination about what value a man, let's say, could offer a woman throughout the course of her life, so that these rich families, the ones that can afford the technology, if it's not available to everyone. Of course, here's what's weird is programmers. That's why I always wanted to learn C#, all the programming languages, JavaScript, not only at the web design level, but down everything on the command line screen, how to program something, Visual Basic kind of stuff, command line code. JavaScript is that, Ajax, everything in the world of web design, but just how to code something, how to code an Arduino chip with C#, that programming language, that kind of stuff. Because I think that these people have a way in that perhaps they will try to guard, much like the rich families try to guard their money. Because they can replicate the technologies and the AI that perhaps people that have the money to pay for it can be able, and essentially maybe over a period of generations, or maybe even right now, even older, being 30 or 40, be able to increase their brain power. For instance, programming the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve into a lesson plan. I'm just throwing ideas out there in a way that they can learn 3 languages at the age of 30, and to harness the power of their psychological knowledge to do at the age of 30 or 40 what we would want our own kids that are 14 or 15 to be able to do now, such as learning Mandarin, such as learning other languages, European languages, yes, but the languages that, if you read The Economist, appear to matter, or just at least another language, even Spanish, right? And Spanish is a very important language. South of the border, I mean, you go down to Mexico, things are blooming down there in some places. So many things are happening, right? So to be able to speak fluently another language, to be not only bilingual but multilingual. And if you're 30 or 40, you're thinking to yourself, gosh, I mean, I've passed the sensitive period. I've passed the time when it can be done. But if you have programming knowledge, you can program the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve into a lesson plan on physics, into a lesson plan on real estate. That should be so simple. Real and personal property, into a lesson on human psychology. How to get more. A lesson on salesmanship. How to persuade. Rhetoric. Composition. And become everything that your child, that you thought you'd have to give away to your child because it's too late for you. Right? And that's programmers that can do that. And speaking of Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, I'm speaking of what Pimsleur used in their language learning methods, which are very effective, even though it goes slower. That circuitous route through things and that repetition. A lot like in Rosicrucianism, the modern sort of knockoff cult of Rosicrucianism, let's say, where they send you stuff in the mail. You take the circuitous route through it, you're covering all aspects of the magic of that secret society. And it's done, it's an educational method. It's sacred repetition. Social engineering, it's salesmanship. I'm selling you on the idea that there is something about me that's worthy of you. I'm selling you on the idea that you cannot look at me the way I look. You cannot listen to me the way I sound. That you cannot judge me by my actions. That you cannot judge me by my record. That you cannot judge me by what I've earned. And you know, as things change, the age at which people will be cut off from dreaming and have to live horrible, terrible lives, homeless or be on welfare, and not dream anymore of what they can give back to society, which is the ideal that I think everyone is born with and innately chases, that they're going to be able to be a role model in society. And by the way, when we use terms like role model, when we use terms like that, you know what happens? It devalues it. Because these are things we are innately chasing. And we take these terms and we start to crunch them. And psychology develops around it. And, you know, these ideas of being a narcissistic psychopath. And, you know, psychology like personality disorders, histrionic personality disorder. All these personality disorders. Unfortunately, as accurate as they are, you know. And by the way, let me go this route with it. I'm going to come back to the main point. Personality disorders are a problem for poor people. Personality disorders are a norm for the elite. It's the personality of rich people. And I wonder if maybe we taught our kids to have personality disorders, narcissism among them, or maybe histrionic personality disorders, that it would manifest money because of their inherent belief that they can be princes and princesses their whole lives, which I think I'm really thinking maybe, you know, with rich families and people that have incredible privilege, that these people are allowed to do it that way. And that's what's guarded, is that they don't have to grow up in the way that normal, average, middle-income families have to have their kids grow up. Like, grow up, son. Go get a job. Grow up, son. Pull your own weight and live a horrible, painful life and stop dreaming of owning a private jet and stop dreaming of being able to go to the Louvre and walk through and see the sculptures and the paintings, and bring back to where your home is ideas and maybe even literature or artwork of your own if you're inclined to paint or to do sculpture, but at least literature and ideas that can benefit your community, and come back refreshed by this intellectual heritage site. To do, of all things, perhaps just tell stories, or tell the most beautiful story ever told each and every day at 5 p.m. on a newscast, on the best newscast that's ever been created. You know, what about that? How about that? So now that I've said that, I've talked about social engineering, I want to talk about, and the reason I went into that is because surveillance, NSA surveillance, government authority, governmental power, and just the way societies govern themselves and winnow others out of certain career fields and winnow others out of certain positions in society and it's all economic. You know, there's not enough time and there's not enough space and there's not enough resources for you to have a valuable lifestyle, for you to mean anything more than what we allow it to mean, because we need you working at Walmart. We need you working here behind the counter. We need you building this, repairing that. You know, what I was going to say is, coming back to social engineering, the NSA, you know, what if the entire world were under surveillance? And I think it is. I think that actually someone sitting behind a control panel somewhere, it may not look exactly like this, the entire world is under a blanket. Satellites, 5G, 4G, 3G, you know, radio, and it can all be tuned into in a way where, and it can all be pieced back together by the computers in such a way that literally you can have a 4K video. You know, you can take, like a lot like in After Effects, the way it's done is you take this camera, you put it somewhere geographically in the world, and you can just produce a 4K video of it. And you can probably look at it other ways too, like infrared, you know, but it just pieces together a 1080p stream of right there, and you can pan that camera around and make it look like a news camera, make it pan through like it's a camera on a tripod that's on a dolly, or a camera that's on a camera crane, in real time, live. So I was wondering, if the entire world was like that, then what would you, if you could go anywhere in the world and the computer, let's say the AI could choose where to put the camera and what to look at based on a narrative you're trying to tell in real time, what would you have? You're looking at the white light of everything. I've talked about this before. You're looking at everything. It's in the world of story. If the entire world is under surveillance and there's, say, 8 billion people in the world doing what they have to do each and every day, going to work, driving, taking a shower, masturbating, having sex with their wives, having sex with whores, eating, sleeping, and fucking, sometimes in the saddest, sometimes in the most average and pedestrian ways, and sometimes in the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fucking ways. Like in the sex scene in Australia. Sex is spiritual, I really do believe it. I'll talk about that later. Death is orgasmic. Birth is orgasmic. Childbirth, as painful as it is for a woman, perhaps in some ways, is orgasmic. The pain of it, that story in the Bible about how the pain of childbirth began. The tears coming out of my eyes are orgasmic. Unrequited love is orgasmic. It's on the verge of it, right? And at a certain point you cry, at a certain point you yell out, Lord, why have you forsaken me? Mom, why? It's orgasmic. Car accidents on the road are orgasmic. Dead bodies being taken out in body bags or on stretchers. Someone clinging to life and dying in an ambulance. It's an orgasmic experience. The people that are trying to save that human life, and the people that are prying with the jaws of life, as they always say. The car doors open on the highway. It's orgasmic. There's something orgasmic about it. Someone winning the presidential election, winning the mayoral race, winning the gubernatorial election is orgasmic. Someone losing and giving a concession speech that, much like, that was a Little League Baseball. I remember this, and the losing team, the coach, went out there and gave this speech about how we're always going to be friends. And it was just the most beautiful concession speech. I thought, what if a politician could deliver a concession speech so beautiful that it beat the victory speech? And there have been times when it happened, because in running for office, because in playing the game and in running the race, even though you lost that marathon or lost the sprint, you came in second, as Maury. Tuesdays with Maury, right? What's wrong with being number 2? As the team lost at the school, and God, they were all so sad, and he just stood up and cheered with his 2 fingers, which, by the way, is a sign of openness. You're not crossing closing the portal. It's open. That's a peace sign, right? There's something satanic about it, almost, but it's a very beautiful thing with energy. It's a peace sign. It said, Number two, and there was something beautiful about that. But, it's happened in the past. It's orgasmic. So this is my idea today, and I've gone on for a while, but this is my one idea I have to give you for this epic newscast, this template. This beautiful way of telling the stories of the day to make it more engaging, and for it to be a healing instrument versus just who, what, where, when, and why, which often is bland and meaningless because you don't answer why, and not why like why did the child get killed, which, well, the child got, you want to answer, but because he was running after a ball, right? It was a stupid decision, but these kids, you know what they do, and there was a car coming down the road at the speed limit. Kid got run over. That's the answer to why. Well, it's almost meaningless. But why do humans have to die? There's many levels to this kind of newscast. There's a higher spiritual, universal eternal level to it, where all of the stories, even, it's a weird, as above, so below. We're telling the same stories as all the other stations, the same way, old way they're used to be presenting it, but the way they're all tied together, fused together, to say something beautiful about your own life and humanity and the helper and what we look for as PhD level storytellers, as reporters, in a story like that. It's taken to a level where you learn something about yourself, and you're left at the end of the newscast with the idea, however, whatever template is used for the day, with the idea that my life matters more than I even knew. And you were brought into the newscast with the motion graphic open at the beginning, through the teaser, the headline sequence, and you took the journey with us, and it was like you were in a church service, as I've said before. But that's what I have to offer. What if that is the case? Okay, well, the news probably wouldn't have access to it. But it's a weird thing, because you could literally, with the assistance of AI, tie things together, and this is the important point here. Tie things together and have live images coming in from all across the world that could be, merged with things happening in your local community. And thematically tagged in such a way as it elevates these smaller stories, and that it elevates, and it can be a mosaic of humanity brought forth from this white light. You see what I'm saying, right? And even if the last story of a newscast is about this local politician that came in second and gave a beautiful concession speech and went back to his family and still served his community, and the last part of the newscast this time, let's say, is, the anchor, does his sign off, and the last 2 to 3 to 5 minutes of the newscast is spent on that speech, and the underlying, the sound is his speech, with, flashing back throughout the course of this segment to, the actual footage, the A-roll of his speech. You bring in live, since you have basically every 8 billion people in the world all interacting with each other, you bring in live things happening in real time to overlay over this footage, to show that right now what this man was saying in this most beautiful concession speech, in this adult talking about political ideas in the most mature of ways, exercising grace in his defeat, exercising courage for what lies ahead and what he still has to do, bringing live images. And there's a meaning in that we're showing a tape that's 1 day old maybe, and that, look, we're proving it, and we can make it explicit in the perfect way, that we're proving his words are real. His words mean something. Because look at all these people doing this stuff, and the AI is choosing what footage to bring in real time. Look, these people are proving everything that he's saying, and everything he's saying we needed to do, and they're doing it. And this one guy that the world hasn't heard of, that the entire nation hasn't heard of, that the entire community, that the entire city, the entire state hasn't heard of, in this one small town that's giving this concession speech after, the election in November. Let's say that this is what we decide to end the newscast with. The day after it's filmed, the entire world is with him. And this white light, the story of everything, 8 billion people or so living, interacting 24/7. It's always noon somewhere in the world, right? It's always sunrise somewhere in the world. It's always sunset somewhere in the world. It's always night somewhere in the world. It's always pitch black night somewhere in the world. There's always stars somewhere in the world. The Milky Way is fully visible from somewhere in the world, or right now. What is there to say but this white light? I love you. And wow, as it turns out, we've got the world with us. So that's my idea today. Let's remix real news.